This is a video about the differences, I'm going to call it differences, not the one's better or one's worse, between things like European RVs, i.e. like this, and those crazy idiots, those crazy fools who decided they wanted to buy something like this. So these, as most people would know, are what was called C-classes, because they have the cab a bit above the bed where you can sleep. This one here is what we call an A-class, which is obviously all integrated. Personally, I think you get more space. I have had lots of motorhomes, which are the European style motorhomes, with the integrated cabs in them. And I've even built a village hopper bus into what I wanted, because I find that a lot of motorhomes, you'll go there and it's always a compromise, because one's got these three things you love and then that one's got another three things that that first one didn't have, so you end up sort of compromising. But also I think a lot of it is that you tend to buy your motorhome, well, I'm only guessing, on how big is your drive and how much money have you got to spend. As you can see with these types of vehicles that I showed you initially, most European motorhomes tend to be about the same kind of width, and what you're buying is length. Yeah, so the beauty about Americans is that they obviously initially are absolutely massive, and I will point out the bad bits. I'm not going to just say that everything's good and bad, or just good. So most American RVs will tend to have slide outs, where you can see here you press this bit and the whole thing goes out. This particular one's got 3 slide outs, and when they're fully out, they're not out at the moment. You can't believe how big it is. Yes, there's a disadvantage to that, that when you're driving on British roads and country roads, it can be absolutely horrific and very stressful. But it also can be in smaller motorhomes, so it's just that bit when you get there is the nice bit. And again, I've just had to buy a lorry sat nav to avoid low bridges, so there are disadvantages in that. One of the other disadvantages of obviously something so massive is it's over 10 tonnes, which means you have to have an HGV licence to drive it. When I first bought one, which was a different model but from the same manufacturer, the dealer in the UK told me a little bit of a, let's call it a porky pie. He basically said that you could drive them on a normal grandfather's licence, because there's a technicality in the law that they're registered as motorhomes. This is not the case, I found out, and so I had to put myself through an HGV. Now licences are getting quite strict, that even if you were to get one of those smaller ones that I showed you outside, you've got to be really, really careful, because so say yours is, for example, 3.5 tonnes, and that's what it comes in as, and you're only allowed to drive a 3.5 tonne vehicle. The minute you fill up with water or put a load of suitcases on board, or try thinking about putting mopeds on the back, then you've literally just gone over your weight limit and you are now completely legal. So with both vehicles, European or American, you've got to take into consideration the weight and the size and the length. But that pretty much sort of covers the size aspect. The sad thing is I don't understand why European motorhomes companies haven't picked up to the idea that if you're going to spend, you know, 100, 200,000 pounds on a European motorhome, that you wouldn't just naturally put slide outs into it. Because otherwise, as I'm sure those people who know who've got them, and I found out when I had mine, it's okay for a couple of days, but you're still with 2 people having to sort of pass yourself in a corridor. If you've got more, like friends and family and kids and a dog, that does become quite grating after a while. Or not, depends on you. I like the fact of turning up and pressing buttons and you've got enough room to conduct a yoga class. So that pretty much covers size. Let's look at, for example, engines and gearboxes. So generally, I am generalising a lot of things I say. A lot of our motorhomes, European motorhomes, tend to come with, I think they're Fiat Ducato engines. Brilliant. Diesel engine, fantastic. And in Europe, obviously, you've got the access, or lots of they're quite very common, so you've hopefully got the access of being able to get them repaired if there's an issue. Parts theoretically shouldn't be too expensive. They usually tend to standardly come as let's just say about what, 2.5 litre, about a 2.5 litre standard engine, diesel engine. Now the problem with that is there is no problem with the engine. They're great engines. The problem with that is, as we know, those of you who are old enough like me can remember that it was only farmers and poor people who drove diesels years ago, and then when the government and the car manufacturers said diesels are brilliant, they're amazing, get diesel, everybody went out and started to buy them, and the stigma then tended to dissipate. And with the development of diesel engines, they've been, they come full circle. They're actually fantastic. There's probably more diesels than petrols. However, as I found out, so I had a Volvo, it had about a 2.5 litre engine, maybe slightly bigger. I was paying £50 a month on road tax. And clearly the government has turned its circle and basically wants everybody to turn to electric. So now we are the guilty party that is polluting the environment when they told us to buy diesels. So they are slowly going to phase them out there. I think that they're going to be pretty much getting rid of diesels. The first step is to obviously put the price of diesel up, so it's now more than petrol, put the road tax up, and they're going to stop importing cars, I think, into the UK in, I don't know, what is it, 2, 3, 4 years? Americans tend to come with not a 2.5 diesel engine. They tend to come with very, very large petrol engines. This particular one has a V8 8.1 litre engine. Yes, I did say 8.1, which may scare you off and terrify you. However, most people that have an American vehicle in this country tend to have them LPG converted, which is fantastic because you can get LPG in this country for as cheap as about 57 pence a litre. So I worked it out. It actually doesn't really cost me that much more than the Volvo I had, a 7-seater Volvo, which is surprising considering it's, over 10 tonnes and the size of a coach. What makes me laugh is obviously we all complain about the price of fuel and we moan, we go on about it with each other and down the boozer. However, we don't do anything about it. So we rather, because again the stigma attached to things like LPG, people won't go and get an LPG converted vehicle knowing they'll only have to pay 57p in LPG. They'd rather pay the money and moan. The disadvantage to that is because of that, and because nobody's really massively taken up the offer of LPG, the fuel companies had an issue where they were losing billions of pounds throughout COVID. So they decided, obviously, in one way of saving money, and again, this is my opinion, is a lot of them have got rid of their LPG pumps. They're still out there, you can find them, but it's just one of those things where you've got to download the maps of where they are. You've got to make sure that they're relevant, the maps, because a couple of times I've turned up and they've said, no, sorry, we've had the pumps taken away a couple of weeks ago. So there is a site, I can't remember what it is. I'm sure if you ask me the question, I might come back to you. And I managed to get a whole map of them and somehow, because I'm not tech, download it into my sat-nav. Very big engine, but cheap fuel, so it's not massive to run. The other beauty is that I love about the American vehicles, they standardly come with things like cruise control. When you're in traffic, which sadly in this country you mostly are, the last thing you want to be doing is messing around with changing gears. It's old-fashioned technology. It makes my knees ache. It's just a pain when you're in dragging slow traffic. So having automatic is great. So you just lift your foot and put your foot down. It does it for you. We love inventions that do stuff for us and make it easier for us. So why would everybody not want to go to automatics? If you're on a racetrack, which we're not, fair enough, you might have the advantage for some reason for a gear stick. However, automatic gearboxes are so modern now anyways, they're brilliant, in my opinion. So you've got the automatic, which is great, especially on long journeys or in traffic. And also, they come standard with cruise control. You can't live without it. What an invention. A fantastic invention. You're on a motorway, you're travelling along, it's really boring, the bottom of your foot is aching because you've had to keep it in one particular place, put it in cruise, put it into auto. To get an auto box or cruise control in most motorhomes, and again you can quote me if I'm wrong, these is, I've been into motorhomes since I was 25, unless you buy probably a brand spanking new one or a very, very new one, you're not going to get cruise, you're not going to get automatic. Water. So, in a normal motorhome, in a European motorhome, from what I remember, and I've asked a couple of people, they say that their shower water will only last them sort of about a weekend. Which, again, if you've just paid like £70,000-80,000 for a motorhome, personal opinion, it's a pain. Because then you've got to keep stopping somewhere and finding somewhere. You can make electricity, you can use solar panels, you can use whatever, plug into a campsite, but you've still got to travel to get that water. I found in this, having showers and things with 2 people, you can get, if you're careful, about 2 weeks of water from the system, which is really, really lovely. Toileting. So most of the European motorhomes, and you guys who know who've got them, will standardly come with a Thetford toilet, which is basically a plastic toilet with a plastic box inside, which, again, people have told me, and from my memory, can get filled up very, very quickly. This little puppy
comes with a
proper toilet. A proper porcelain toilet with a little shower thing, which you can use as a bidet or to get down more stubborn friends. And when you go to empty it out, you don't have to do the walk of shame. I call it the walk of shame. So you take your Thetford toilet out. You might have splashes on your hands. You may have splashes here. You then got to transport it across the campsite, empty it out, wash it out, clean your hands, bring it back, make sure there's no spillage within your vehicle. The Americans, oh no, they're not doing that silly business. We have an outdoor shower if we get our hands dirty, and we can obviously use that to wash our feet if we are come off the beach. We then have this huge hose pipe here, which comes down through here. You pull it out, point it out, pull a lever, and all your poop comes out. So you're now thinking, well, I've now got a huge pipe, a long pipe, this concertina pipe, which is covered in poop. However, you pull the other one, and all the grey water, which is your shower water and your sink water, that then cleans your pipe out. So you just literally rock up, poke your pipe down the hole, pull a couple of levers, and your toileting is resolved. Gas, we said, didn't we? Gas. So basically, this puppy runs on LPG. I've got 3 massive LPG tanks in here, but also Americans standardly build their vehicles with their own onboard LPG tank, which is big. This is how I can tell you it's big, even without looking at it. So it was winter, parked the vehicle up, accidentally left the heating on, and the heating gets up to temperature, then it turns itself off, and then when the temperature drops again, it then kicks back in again. I think we'd left that on for about 3 weeks to a month, 24 hours a day, and still I think there was about half a tank left. What I found with my, I had a Heimer, was the last one I had, nice lovely 6-wheel Heimer, had 2 gas cylinders, and I turned the blown air heating system on, and it was pretty much gone by the morning. I had a friend, he had a similar sort of setup, and we were out in a ski resort. I think he managed to get about 48 hours out of it, which obviously when you park, you don't want the hassle of, you know, having to then go and try and find gas, especially in a foreign country with different gas nozzles and this kind of business. So I like the fact that the Americans, you know, if you've got that kind of size, you can leave your gas on and not have to worry about your gas for weeks. And again, it's LPG, so it's cheap. You can get your gas cylinders converted to LPG. At least that helps out on price, because obviously going to a campsite, that kind of gas, or caravan places, they're really expensive. But it's about the size. You need massive tanks. And again, if you're paying so much money for a big European RV, you don't have to be finding gas every 2 days. You don't have to be emptying your toilet every couple of days. You don't have to be filling up with water every 2 days. You know, you're there to relax. The whole point is relaxing. You spend all that money. Again, my opinion, you know, it is obviously quite a, what's the word, big jump to avoid all those issues by getting an American vehicle. But you can find some Americans, they're quite rare, where they are small enough that you could drive on your grandfather's rights, and they will have all this stuff standard. So when it comes to value for money, you know, you're paying a fraction of the price for an American of what you pay for a decent second-hand European RV. So value for money. There's another thing I think is really, really good. Again, not saying one is better than the other, just comparing differences. Although the Americans are better. Just joking, only having a laugh. Standard with an American vehicle comes a 7K generator, onboard generator. Press the button from the inside, it starts the generator, and then it will start to charge your batteries and charge everything and run your air conditioning, because this has got obviously 2 air conditioners throughout the vehicle. It will run your microwave and microwave oven. It will power everything, but you don't really want to be turning that on and sucking up lots of normal petrol running a 7K generator. So hence why I put in solar panels. But you got that advantage if you want it. Again, in European vehicles they don't really come with that. So if your batteries go dead, you could be in for a problem. Again, if your front battery goes dead, the battery that starts your engine, the Americans have put in a clever little idea. I'm not sure about, I know older motorhomes, European, don't have them. But you can press a little button on the dash and it sucks out power from the leisure batteries to get your front battery started. So hopefully you will never have that problem. And then once the front starts, the alternator then charges your leisure batteries, which then means you can turn on your generator and your generator can then charge everything. But again, this is obviously if you had that much of an issue and your solar wasn't giving you enough power. As I say, we've got air conditioning, we have our flat screens, we have our microwave oven, we've got a large fridge freezer with apparently an ice making machine, which I've never worked out how to make it work. We have an onboard hairdryer. We have, that's one of the things, even in the Heimer that I had a strange shower where you stood into your toilet and your shower was all incorporated. There's literally just about enough room for one person. I like the fact the Americans put in massive showers. You could easily quite happily have 2, and you could even sit down if you're feeling lazy, which I often am. This is the bedroom. It's only got one slider out at the moment, so it's quite small. It has I don't know if it's king or queen, but I know it's one of the biggest beds, which is really, really comfy. Yeah, I think I showed you, I'm not sure, yeah, I did show you the toilet, didn't I? There's our little toilet with our sinky poo. So that's all nice. Right, so that's pretty much a good comparison. We've talked about the engine, we've talked about the size, we've talked about the weight, we've talked about the space, the slide out, we've talked about engine, gearbox, electricity, toilet, water. You even get little fans, look. How cute is that? Little tiny fans that run. Any questions you want to know about American RVs, then please let me know and I'll try and answer those. However, as I said in my other previous videos, haven't really had much success with people watching my videos, so I won't expect too much from you. Be nice, but we'll see. If it's been interesting, then great, and a help if you're thinking about an American vehicle or you're just interested or curious about them. Hopefully it's just 5 or 10 minutes of just nice chat about motorhomes and RVs. Have a great day.